I will call to order this regular meeting of Monroe County Solid Waste Management District's Citizens Advisory Committee. This is not our usual third Thursday because we rescheduled. It is Wednesday. It is May 24th, 2023. We're at 5:33 p.m. And in the absence of our vice chair, I will call the roll. So Joseph Winnie is here. John Arnold. Present. Brian Edwards. Bill Goin.
Here.
Brad Lucas. Paul White.
Here.
Right, thank you all. We do have a quorum. So we'll start with the adoption of the agenda. Today's agenda was distributed by email and uploaded to Dropbox on Monday, the 22nd. Are there any objections to adopting the agenda as distributed and as shown in the current screen share? Seeing none, the agenda is adopted. So I will cancel that share. And we don't have any meeting minutes available for our April 20 regular or 5-year plan review meeting. We can go ahead right on to reports, starting with the district, if you would, Tom.
All right. Well, I can start with a bit of good news for the CAC. We do have a request for appointment that will be, I guess, will be presented to the executive committee at their next meeting on Tuesday, and I would assume forward to the full board for consideration. So good to have interest and continue to grow the committee. So
who is this? What's your name? What's
Matt Austin
Yeah.
is the person's name. And then I don't know that anybody is aware. On the flip side, for the district, Holly Dewar has resigned as our controller. Her last day at work was yesterday. We fortunate that when Connie Hudson retired as our office manager, our previous controller, Kathy Martin, expressed interest in that job and was offered and took that job. So Kathy obviously, but willing to pick up the slack, cover the void in the interim, and has expressed some interest in taking the position back now that it's open. So again, that is, the controller is the board's discretion. So be up to the board if they want to place her back in that position or not. But at least in the meantime, it's not like we're going to be operating without any controller or anybody that has any experience in that position for any period of time. So
what does that job pay? What does that job pay?
The controller or the
the controller.
Was a 30-hour-a-week position, and it's a little over $27 an hour.
How much?
A little over $27 an hour. I don't have the exact figure up right in front of me.
Just curious.
What for the record, what is the job duties of the controller?
The controller is the financial officer of the district. Again, I don't have the job description sitting in front of me, but
yeah, but basically what they do.
Payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, providing financial reports to the board, to the state, putting the materials together and working with the State Board of Accounts when we're audited. And those are the biggies that come to mind.
Just curious because I'm a CPA, so that's why I asked there.
No.
Although I think it probably pays less than I get now because I get a real good salary in the States.
I would imagine, and it's only a 30-hour-a-week position, so it is eligible for benefits.
So it's 27 an hour.
But our policy is to advertise job postings internally before externally. We will hire from within first. So again, it'll be up to the board, what they want to do with that. Either way, at some point, we're going to have a position to fill when the dominoes are done falling. So. But, and, you know, we're very fortunate that Kathy is there, I think because we are kicking off 2024 budget preparation. So to not have a financial person in place would not be good.
Yeah, the figures you gave me figures out 42,120.
So,
But that's actually a lot less than I get at the state.
well, you're overpaid then. I don't know. So,
Yeah, they decided that they were paying below market wages like about 6 months ago. And of course, everybody that works there knows that, but we're just happy to have a job. But the states decided that they need to make sure people stay, so they gave most everybody a raise. And I got a $10,000 raise.
good.
So because they decided that they were not paying wages consistent with what the market is.
Yeah, that happens in government sometimes.
So I lucked out on that.
And then beyond all of that, we're still doing some back and forth on the host fee agreement with Rumpke, or I guess we have an agreement in principle with Rumpke. And so now we're working through that agreement with Republic. And you know, they had some questions that we need to get addressed. Because, you know, that we have a host fee agreement in place with Republic, and we want to make sure everybody's on an uneven playing field. So, so we're still working through that. I'll steal Bill's thunder, and you know, the Rumpke facility is running now. They had the ribbon cutting last week. Still waiting on some permit approvals, I think, at that time, local permit approvals at that time. But did open and start accepting materials on Monday, so. And we are, I haven't reported here, Joey Long has reported at the board meeting, we are investigating a potential outlet for plastic bags. So we're working with that vendor as we would expect. You know, they have a number of conditions and restrictions on that material and the exact types of bags that they'll take. So but we're hopeful that we can figure out a way to collect them and be within what their parameters are and start offering that service again in the near future. Yeah, I don't know where I'm right now. My head is spinning from trying to crunch numbers and start on the budget, but I think those are the big things that I have to report. So,
Thank you, Tom. Any questions on the report? I am curious. I know there is the like the grocery store apartments or grocery store recycling program where they take plastic bags. Would this be of a similar type of process, or is this a different entity entirely?
is it, well, I don't know who other grocery stores are working with. This is a recycler.
And the grocery store won't tell him.
No. But this is a recycler out of Indianapolis that we already send some materials to.
Okay.
But this is open door for me again. One thing that I forgot that we did, the board did award the multi-dwelling residential complex composting pilot RFP, the One Sustainable Joe, operated by our own Joe Winia. So we do have, did get that award done, did get that agreement in place, and have made the call for initial payment. So that program is off and running.
Thank you for the addition.
There was, I believe, in the last agreement that we had with Republic, something about not having another
Facility.
that's the word I was looking for. And I couldn't recall whether they had anything to do with host fees or something else that they were giving us. I'm assuming that that no longer exists because that contract ran out and was not renewed. Is that correct?
No, that's, I think you're referring to a clause that is in what's called the solid waste disposal agreement. It was entered into in 2004 and was a 20-year agreement.
Okay.
And that's the agreement that contains our host fee with Republic.
Okay.
And now, neither entity could prohibit somebody else. We don't have the authority to deny somebody the ability to open a business or anything. So, but there were some clauses in there about, what would happen should another facility open, one of which is the district is to seek to enter into the same host fee agreement with that facility. And that's what we've been negotiating with Rumpke, and now are taking what we've negotiated with Rumpke and reviewing that with Republic. And there'll probably be some tweaking, done, but the idea, the intent is to come to get some terms in place, and we may even modify the agreement that we have with Republic. That's a possibility as well. That could be revised. But the intent is, to come to an agreement that keeps the host fee coming to the district, and that both entities are comfortable that they can, operate in this community with.
Basically identical twin clauses, if nothing else.
Yeah.
All right. That's something I didn't think about. Wondering.
We're working through it.
Okay.
Other questions on the report? All right, thanks, Tom. That brings us to reports from the chair. The first of which, so Tom actually covered new member request, transfer station opening, and the award for the multi-building complex composting pilot program. So
Maybe we need to touch base before the meeting.
no, that's good. That was all things that was just, they needed to be mentioned and they kind of fall under both domains. So you got those covered. And one of two other things that I wanted to mention is that there is, as Tom noted, the start of the budget cycle for 2024. So I can share this, but I just wanted to make everyone aware sort of early on that the next 3 months or so have kind of a step between the CAC and the board meetings in terms of when we submit our budget request to the district, when we see the district's budget proposal, and then when we write our written response, and then when we submit it. So I've just set up a little timeline of all of those things happening. The meetings in gray are just regular meetings, but so we're here. So we're going to introduce and talk about the budget today, and then in our June meeting, finalize it to request it. And then in the board meeting in July, that's when the budget will be presented. And then we are hoping to do a joint meeting between the board and the CAC, either immediately following that if possible, or within that week, because that's the window between the presentation of that budget and our meeting. And it will be during our meeting that we're going to want to finalize our comments, because it will be at the next board meeting that we will have to submit them, because that's when the board will be voting on the budget.
If that June meeting is going to be on the 15th, I will not be in state.
That's good to know. June. Yes, okay. That is when our current regular meeting is scheduled.
And I don't know Bali where I'll be. I have service to be able to
Okay,
join in otherwise.
we will check in on that when we get to the scheduling for that month. And if it looks like we're not going to have more, we'll reschedule.
Yeah. I thought I ought to mention that now.
And I just, for everybody's information, that should something happen and the CAC not submit a budget request, I will automatically do the same request that you had for this year.
Good to know. So just wanted to note that I will continue to include that information in the future meeting announcements, but just wanted to make everyone aware of that sort of timeline. And the other item from the report is, just wanted to touch base. There was the City of Bloomington Utilities Resource Recovery informational meeting last week during our regularly scheduled meeting time. So Paul White, Ryan Edwards, and I were all, and Tom were all able to attend. Gonna see if either of the other two attendees wanted to provide any information about it. If not, just to note that it was informative.
I actually wasn't sure what to expect from the meeting.
Okay.
I thought what was presented well.
Okay.
Hopefully I actually didn't learn anything, was able to spin a few things down. I'm kind of looking forward to this process of having that. In fact, I'm looking forward to that happening even more so than what I was looking forward to the multi-stream recycling thing. What was that called, Tom?
The mixed waste processing?
Yes, yeah. And so I'm pretty hopeful that city, county, and other concerns will be able to get together and make this thing work.
I think, Bill, are you familiar with the context? Because I think you.
Not at all.
Okay, you joined, I think, pretty late in the process. In short, City of Bloomington Utilities is considering upgrading their Tillman Road wastewater treatment plant from aerobic to anaerobic digestion.
Okay.
With the goal of collecting the gas and
Okay.
fuel. Yeah. So the Solid Waste Management District entered into agreement to co-fund in equal parts a feasibility study on that process. It's been at least 5 years of the city of Bloomington considering this and doing a previous study as well, and just continuing the investigation. So that was why I guess district became involved, is the participation in that feasibility study. This info meeting was some of the results of the report that came as a result of that study. Study has taken place for the last likely 3 years. So it looks like the study concludes that it is possible to install the biodigester and have it with I guess 3 of their 16 possible scenarios be net profitable end results.
I remember in the board meetings, there was talk of it, and I
Yes.
had to have I was at the presentation they gave the board.
Right, that's right. That's what this was for.
We talked about the different types of biomaterials they could get and the purity of it, what kind of gas it would generate.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Now that you bring that.
Yes, yeah.
I was particularly interested, well, the question I asked, what they were going to do to the H2S, which is hydrogen sulfide, which is a very poisonous gas. It smells like rotten eggs up until the point that there's so much of it concentrated where if you breathe it, you can't smell it. And if you can't smell it, you're just about nerve-wise, totally incapacitated. I've been hoping that some engineer somewhere would come up with a way where even if all we're doing is flaring that gas, which is how you get rid of it, at least in the oil industry, which I've been involved with for many years, that we can do something to harness that energy, even if it was just to create something steam, to make some steam power, do something with it. It's, to me, I see so much, at least out west where the oil wells are and so on, that it's being flared. It just seems to me be such a waste when we can do something with it.
Sure. Yeah, I didn't really provide much of a direct answer to that question.
No, well, his direct answer was, we're gonna flare it, and that's it.
Which is standard practice.
Yeah, it's standard practice. But it would be nice if we could do something to have that create steam, to
Generate heat, you can
Generate.
always do something.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. Okay. Those are the 2 things I wanted to report on. Are there any other questions? All right. So that will bring us on to reports of special committees. I did just want to note there for the rebranding subcommittee that we've had a second iteration of flow was presented, and we're in the discussion process on those so far. So the process is still ongoing. I think making progress, more progress to be made. That's that. Tom, was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No, that's pretty much something.
Okay.
Plugging away at it.
Okay. Questions? All right.
How many more green bags do we have?
The reusable bag?
Yeah,
I have no idea off the top of my head.
84 cases or something like that.
Yeah, I have enough that if you want some, I can make those.
I'm thinking maybe I should take a box up or something like that, just take them over to the Area 10 Agency on Aging where I'm through. And just open up and say, hey, have at it.
Be happy to have, I would be happy to let that happen, yeah.
All right, with that, we can go on to, we have no special orders, no unfinished business. We do have a few new business items, starting with the budget. So attached to the packet were a couple of relevant documents. Our 2022 spending report and budget, 2023 current expenditures, and a form for our 2024 requested budget. Historically, the values are pretty consistent in terms of what we budgeted, and we pretty consistently not spent them. So as the case of every year, we can discuss what we would like to have allocated. And then I'll also just note later on in the agenda is strategic planning for 2023. So I feel like those things can, well, strategic planning less for 2023, but just thinking about planning in general, thinking about budgeting in terms of what we're planning as well. So in our normal requests, we have, I guess, our previous request, it's been $500 for travel and $1,000 for training and education. And as Tom mentioned, if we don't make any other decisions or any agreement on anything, that's what would be requested again as a repeat this year from last year.
Let's see, 500, 1,000,
That's it.
That's it.
500 for travel and 1,000 for training and education.
500 travel. 1,000 training.
So
That 500 is for the gasoline for your electric vehicle.
I mean, it's been a number of years. Since I've been director, I don't think that the CAC has used any budget appropriations for anything other than to send some members to the association conference. Now I'm thinking about, I'm gonna take that back. There was my first or second year, a couple of members went to something that was up in Michigan.
Yes. I don't remember what it
And I
was
can't remember
now.
what that was, but at any rate, that is there. And it's been before I was director many years ago. The CAC did toward the end of the year recognize unspent funds and was able to use those. They purchased a number of the little metal framed clear plastic recycling.
Oh, the recycling frames.
Yeah, and they donated those to Downtown Bloomington Inc. to use for events downtown.
okay.
And do we supply the bags for those still?
No. Not that I'm aware of, nobody's asked us. I mean, it's the clear, you're supposed to put the clear bags in, so you can see what's
Right.
You know.
I was thinking, when I used them, I was thinking they were a clear bag, but they were printed with something, and I can't remember what.
Whatever they came with or was purchased when the frames were purchased could have had something printed on it. Like that was before my time as director, and I really wasn't involved in it.
Yeah,
That happened.
I think it had something to do with Monroe County Solid Waste or something like that.
I think I have.
So I do appreciate that example. I mean, so I pulled up a list of the line items in the budget. And I think at least it's worth keeping in mind that we can make a request if we have any objectives that we would like to fulfill. Obviously, it's up to the board to approve them, but
Yeah, and I would just point out that, particularly when it comes to, decide, at the end of the year, you have money and we want to spend it on this. So the appropriations are categorized. So you have a supply category, services and charges category, and a capital category. So you can move money, we can freely move money within those categories. But if you want to move money from one category to another, the board has to do that.
oh, okay.
So basically that says if we want to move money from the travel budget to buy more frames, the board has to
The
approve.
board would have to approve that
Yeah.
transfer of funds.
Has there been any talk of whether the frames are still in good repair or if we need to have more?
I've not talked with anybody about it specifically in some time. We have a handful of times over the past couple of years, people have called us asking where to get something like that, and we've
Yeah.
referred them to Downtown Inc., knowing that they have those.
Right.
So,
I will also note, we do have our next regular meeting before which we can make proposals or have discussions, continue our discussions to finalize our requested budget. So we'll be at our next regular meeting when we will finalize our request. So between now and then, we can think about things now while we're here, but if anything comes to mind between now and then, we do have that opportunity to fill that. I know off the top of my head, I guess I haven't spent any effort thinking about opportunities for spending. It does seem convenient to have the travel and the education funds allocated, but at the same time, when we're never spending them, I question the value of it. Yeah, that's as far as I thought so far.
well, I would offer, again, like I said, it was 4 or 5 years ago, a couple of people went to some conference in Michigan, like I can't remember what that was. You're not spending it, but that, so seek out other opportunity. I mean, it's not that it has to be used to go to the association conference.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be spent, but if there's a need for us to do something or, hey, that would be very maybe worthwhile, interesting, whatever, then it's there so that we can.
True.
Right, if you want to make a connection with, a community that, has apartment recycling up and running, if somebody can make a connection with that and, fall into those categories, we're going to send a couple people, we're going to go talk to them, we're going to visit the apartment complex, how that's set up and see if we can bring that back to Monroe County. I think that would be a legitimate use of those funds. So, just because you're not using it doesn't mean that we have to reduce it. It doesn't mean we need to reallocate those funds. We can do that, obviously, both of those things, but it may also mean that there's other opportunities that aren't being sought out that are out there.
Right. That may be something I personally do plan to think more about in the next month in terms of what those opportunities could be. I know that's historically not something we've actively done in the last couple of years that I've been attending. But I think, I do think this funding is a really good opportunity. It just hasn't been taken advantage of. I think that's what I was thinking of.
Or maybe you recognize the need for some, supplies, materials that would benefit cycling, composting, whatever efforts in and around Bloomington, and you want to reallocate some of the money into the supplies category to purchase like the recycling, more of the recycling bins, or whatever else. It's just, don't feel confined to a box that all we can do is travel to point A and do some class.
Right. Great thoughts.
But then at the same time, I just would would caution if you get any grand plans, that it is a request. And once we start putting everybody's requests together, sometimes things get knocked down or knocked out.
Yes, that's true.
So I guess an Indianapolis Indians game was out of the question.
Not out of the question, but.
But if they have, if they're doing an excellent job of collecting food waste and recycling for composting, recycling, and you want to go up
If
there.
we're there for that purpose.
See how we can bring that back to the, an IU facility or local youth league or whatever. There's ways to justify something. Doesn't mean eyebrows won't be raised, but.
I do definitely warrant some thought if there aren't any particular destinations in mind right now. Would like to be able to take advantage of those things and.
And if that's something you should do, and then, I would also, I would say, let's go back to the 5-year plan, the goals and objectives, and, what is it that we're looking to do down the road? Where is that happening? And we're going there to see it in action.
Or I was also inspired by your thought about a materials category. If there is anything that we could do with respect to the 5-year plan that we could undertake.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about anything like that from us to go into the 5-year plan.
Yeah. There's some interesting avenues. But I, for one, don't have any sound dollar amounts to propose at the moment.
Well, that's why we brought it this month, to give you a month to figure all that out.
Yeah, first reading. Any other thoughts on that or ideas?
And if you have any questions about, what actually fits into any of those categories, because some are short, sweet descriptions. Obviously, just shoot me an email or something and we can give you better descriptions of what falls into a given category.
We'll stop that share then. I think say that covers our agenda item if there are no other thoughts. Okay. Coincidentally, I guess our next new business item is the item grant opportunity, which it was actually, I should have added, jumping back a moment to the reports. The new member applicant was a colleague of mine on the Bloomington Commission on Sustainability. So we worked together on the waste reduction working group. The reason I mentioned that is because he's the one who made me aware of this opportunity from the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. I'm going to quickly, as soon as I can get it on the agenda. Here is a web page related to IDEM has an Indiana Recycling Market Development Program. So I'll make it a very short intro now, but I did include the link in the agenda as well, and they provide grants. Let's see. So they're accepting grant funding proposals through June 21st of this year. They may range from $50,000 to $500,000 with a 50% required cash match. So we would have to find a backer, but they do offer significant grants if there were any programs that we wanted to consider and wanted to pursue larger scale funding for that as well. Just something to throw out there because
I would just throw out, given, and I'm gonna, either they have changed the dollar amounts or there's a second grant program. Because a few years ago, we got a grant to help implement and promote the food waste collection services that we did with Earth Keepers at the sites. That was only like a $5,000 to $7,000 grant.
oh,
And are we still doing that?
We can talk about that in a minute. But when we're looking at 50 to 500,000 now, 500,000 is, but for the right idea, the right project, the right district right now has adequate cash reserves that can be appropriated. The board would have to approve making that request to the county council. Additional appropriation, but just because we can absorb the $25,000 budget request from the CAC doesn't mean that those funds can't be found and made available for projects.
Very good to know. June 21st deadline, very close. We were too tempted for this year, but
It's an annual program.
I was just gonna say, I believe it's recurring. This is the first time I've been made aware of it. And they solicited it on a mailing list saying attention, solid waste management districts, and then listed a couple of other organizations, so. Yeah, it's just another, big funding opportunity if we were to undertake a big project. To make everyone aware of and have the opportunity to discuss if there's some interest.
And again, it's not something the district has pursued very often. I think just because it is cash match requirement and it's substantial funds, but it doesn't mean that I or the board would be opposed to pursuing the right project.
That was all I had for that agenda item. Particular thoughts? Reactions? Right. I'll stop that share, and our third new business item is all kind of in the same vein. It's 2023 strategic planning. So most of this year has been in anticipation of the joint board meeting, 5-year plan review, kind of status update on district activities to find out where to focus CAC efforts. So we were able to finally have that meeting unofficially with the board of directors and just kind of get an update on district activities. So now I feel like it's a good time for us to discuss what we want to be doing this year, what we're planning on. Fewer than the 2024 budget cycle, but still the rest of the calendar year is 7 months. So to see if there are any thoughts on particular directions or activities. I know Ryan mentioned when she stopped in and before she headed out that she still plans to follow up the adopter cleanup. So that's one thing that we have planned, so to speak, for this year, but open opportunity to discuss what we're doing as an advisory committee, if there's anything particular we want to focus on, or directions we want to go, general thoughts.
Well, I still think we need to focus on what we're gonna be doing at the county fair. Maybe even Steinsville, Ellisville. To make a presence, just for the fact that we're there kind of helps people remember. They have to be a little more careful about how I toss this or that.
I would, and just to kind of piggyback on that, follow up. I guess first, I'm remiss in my report, we will have a booth at the fair again this year, so. And if any CAC members are interested in volunteering some time to help staff that booth during the fair week, let me know. But is it the 3rd through the 10th?
I don't remember, I think so, but I don't remember.
We decided July
3rd through the 8th.
Oh, not the worst.
3rd through the 8th of July.
So in the commercial building where the booth will be located is open 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if anybody, we would certainly appreciate any help in helping to staff that, so feel free to. No, but and by the fair, I don't know, but with all talking about in Ellisville and Steinsville, once we get through this rebranding process, the fall festival in Ellisville. I mean, it makes sense once we have rebranded ourselves to get it out there anywhere and everywhere that we can. And, just like with the fair, anybody on the CAC that wants to help, attend those events and represent the district and whatever we're called at that time, that would be more than welcome.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A good opportunity to, diffuse the rebranding. Get a new version out there. Any signups already for the fair?
Well, I'm not gonna be campaigning for anything this year, so. So I should be available.
Nice.
I'll see what I can do.
Right.
And again, there's no obligation, no requirement.
Yeah, but, no,
We will be, last year, we shared a booth with Monroe County Soil and Water
Right.
and Monroe County Stormwater, the MS4. Soil and Water had their own thing that they wanted to do this year, but we are still sharing a booth with Monroe County MS4 program. So they will be there as well.
should we have something like, Monroe County CAC shirts to wear at that?
Well, we don't really have district, nobody's gonna.
I mean, just a thought. I'm not saying we should, that was just a question. Or
If we wanted to
Maybe.
design a logo and request some funding.
yeah, or at least maybe some kind of a credential,
And I
pin on your shirt.
down the road, I think that's a good idea, but I don't think printing
Yeah.
shirts while we're in the middle of rebranding is the way.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But once we know what the district's gonna be called, what our logo is gonna be, and then if the CAC wanted to work within those parameters to design
Some
something.
CAC member, or, whatever.
And then there's something that could, be an annual budget item for you in the supply category, so that we can buy shirts for new members when they're appointed.
For now, we'll just have to have Rumpke give us shirts and say, I'm a trashy kind of a guy.
But I mean, if we're, if the membership is getting to the point and with 5-year plan and everything that, there's a desire to be more visible and more active and more involved with the district when, we're at events or we're putting on programs out in the community, something to identify who you are makes sense.
Because if nothing else, I mean, I've had shirts that I wear that say something, but if they're not, what's that? And then that's the old.
Bad idea. Put that down for my budget considerations for that.
Okay. There's my proposal.
I did want to ask, I know we've talked about in the past, or we've done in the past, a Robert's Rules training. We talked about the potential of doing it on a recurring basis. Is there still an interest in having that?
I move that we suspend the rules.
Let's see, on the motion. So that's something I wanted to propose. It's something I have given in the past and have just a little slide deck for just to do a refresher on Robert's Rules. So
It wouldn't hurt.
find the time to do that.
Particularly we have a turnover in the membership.
Yeah.
Probably we're doing.
That's true. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably reintroduce the idea then based on.
I mean, I think the last time I had really any in-depth training in that was in junior high school in FFA.
A good time for a refresher.
That's Future Farmers of America, for those of you that don't know.
See then when Matt Austin joins, that'd be a good opportunity then as well. Okay, other thoughts?
Under new business,
I guess under the end of strategic planning, before we wrap that agenda item up. Okay, then yes, that concludes our last planned new business item. If there are any other new items we can discuss.
I'll refer to you a little bit. Paul asked if we were still doing food waste collection at the site.
Indeed. Are you aware of the status of Earthkeepers Compost?
I am not.
Okay, so they are actually ceasing operations at the end of this month.
Okay.
So since they are the ones who have been processing the materials,
Mhm.
the district can't practically host organics collection anymore without having the ability to process it.
Okay.
So
Yeah, the Earthkeepers compost facility, Table Farms, was the only one accepting food waste from the
And
public.
that was Ryan, correct?
yes. So in that absence, there is essentially no longer any food waste collection options in Monroe County.
Okay.
So not an easy problem to solve, but it's the current.
No, I mean, we've heard. There's, certainly members of the community that desire to see that continue. So, we're aware that there's desire to have such a program.
This is where the anaerobic digester will come in handy.
We have to find, a place that we can take it, and it's logistically not easy, because it's a type of material that can't sit in an open roll-up box for a week till we have enough to. And then you're also, at this point in time, you're looking at hauling out of county, because there's nobody else in the county that takes food waste. So then we have transportation costs, but also economies of scale. We're not hauling a 33-gallon drum at a time. So there's some challenges, to getting that back up and running, but we've heard people that have contacted us since they found out about Earthkeepers, and we are looking. It's going to be some time.
And I will add a little more detail to the district report note of the multi-dwelling complex composting program. So that is essentially going to be the nearest potential method, starting at a very small scale, where it'll be targeting apartment complexes and giving materials and training to apartment residents to do their own composting on site. That would eliminate hauling and would also fall within, I guess, below registration requirements for IDEM in terms of volume and, I guess, arrangement of the composting operation.
That's what one handy Joe is gonna try to take care of.
One sustainable, Joe.
And then I would, add to that, that program that we're piloting with One Sustainable Joe pretty much has to be a self-contained program, because you can also run afoul of some of the IDEM rules if you start bringing material in from off-site
Right.
and put that into the compost pile. So if there are challenges, to doing this. I'll take this opportunity to announce, as I did at the last board meeting, Elisa Pokral is hosting a home composting workshop at the district on June the 10th. Anybody interested in that can contact the district office to get in touch with Elisa and register for that.
That's Sunday.
Huh? Is that a Sunday? It should be a Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay.
Saturday. It's Saturday. It's when I'm over at Terre Haute Special Olympics.
Oh, yes, there will be no immediate equivalent to the existing services that Earthkeepers has provided.
Okay. Sad to hear.
It was. Caught off guard by that one.
Of course, be continued efforts.
Well, it was kind of a pilot anyway, wasn't it?
Well, pilot.
Well, for us,
For us, I guess.
for us, and what we got that grant for 2 or 3 years ago to implement and promote that, we piloted that with Earthkeepers at the Bethel Lane site.
Right.
And then they took that experience and to them, it was totally up to them. And they saw enough there that they asked to expand it to all 5 recycling centers. And that's what it was. So it was beyond a pilot program.
Okay, all right.
Other questions or thoughts on that particular item?
Not at the moment from me.
Just a related issue,
Yes.
I guess, just for CAC. So in and amongst all of this, I think everybody got copied on the email that Brian Conway has resigned from the CAC because he obviously has a million things going on right now, but he was the co-secretary.
Correct.
So you have, in essence, a vacant officer position right now that can either be filled or the other co-secretary could just assume become secretary for the remainder of the year.
True. So yeah.
And that's you.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Right. Yeah, I guess the secretary position is still filled in a sense, but would no longer be
It
a
is.
co-secretary
Right.
position. You were the exclusive secretary now.
I just did not want the other close secretary to not have an opportunity to speak up if that was not something they were comfortable getting dumped on them.
A good point. Thank you.
Well, yeah, maybe, I'm not sure if you really wanted it. You think?
Well, I don't know.
At the very least,
It's a moot point now.
right. Right. I guess to that point, are the secretary duties still manageable for you as sole
Yeah,
secretary?
I marked it on the rebroadcast.
Okay.
Well, that was the minutes last month, okay?
So I will follow up with you after the meeting, if that's all right.
Give you a what?
I said I'll follow up with you after the meeting
Okay.
on those minutes.
I try to, rather than write a word right, all the main points because people don't necessarily have time to read pages and pages of stuff. And so I figure the best way is to make all the main points.
Indeed, I will check in on that in just a moment. I think, or were there any other thoughts? Well, that was secretary status. Any other, well, we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any other business items, new business items worth mentioning? All right. In the absence of those, that does conclude our new business section of the agenda. That does bring us to public comment. So each member of the public will have 4 minutes to speak. I do see we have one on Zoom. If you are interested in making a comment, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or type into the chat. You'll be called on to do so. And let's see, what have we done? I'm mistaken, I apologize.
Wait, I'm seeing one name I don't recognize.
Oh, okay. I do not.
I'm not seeing a hand come up and nothing in the chat.
All right. So in that case, I will make a reminder that our next meeting is currently scheduled for Thursday, June 15th at 5:30 p.m. in this same room, Showers Building North, 100 feet. And if there is no objection, this meeting will adjourn. All right, seeing none, we are adjourned, and thank you, everybody.